Hey everyone, as you guys know, I did 2 Monotype ones against the Elite 4, which are the Water and Fire types. I decided to try a different kind of video and see if you guys like it. I decided to try my hand on the Pokemon Radical Red Gym Leader Elite 4 Challenge. The reason why I'm doing this is because, for one, I like to try something different, and two, not a lot of people have actually done an Elite 4 challenge in Radical Red with the Gym Leader's Pokemon. I'm pretty excited about doing, hopefully, this series because I thought of this idea around the time I did the Fire Monotype one, and I hope you guys do enjoy it as well. By liking the video down below to show your support, which doesn't cost you guys anything, and if you're brand new to the channel and you guys haven't subscribed to it, be sure you guys hit that subscribe button, as it doesn't cost you guys anything, and it doesn't bite you guys in the butt. Like a rock ruff. Also, if you guys want to download Radical Red, it's linked in the description below for you guys to go check out. And also, I now linked the document in the description as well, because I highly recommend you guys to go check it out, because there are plenty of changes in this game compared to the main games. And before we continue on, let's talk about the rules for this series, which are going to be in the description below. Number 1, we have to use the ace Pokemon of said gym leader. For example, just from the title, we are going to be using Brock's team, which means we have to use 5 Pokemon and Onix, because Onix is Brock's main Pokemon, and it wouldn't be a Brock team without his main Pokemon. Number 2, we are only using the gym leader's Pokemon in the games. And number 3, we are not going to be using any Pokemon that were in the stadium games, unless they're in the main games. I say this because I want to stick to the same type as the gym leader's typing in the main games. And now, with all that said and done, it's now time for you guys to get out your trusty frying pan, because we're going to be using it as a drying pan, because it's time to meet our Block the Rock team. First up, we have Big Boomer the Onix with the Sonic Berry, which will give me a +1 speed at low HP, and with the Jolly Nature. We have the Sturdy ability so that we can survive with 1 HP. Big Boomer has the moves Earthquake, Rock Slide, Explosion, and Stealth Rock. Earthquake and Rock Slide is for getting some damage, and Rock Slide is for flinching. And most of the time, we're just going to go for the Explosion and Stealth Rocks, because Onix is obviously not very good, and it has less attack than Squirtle. And so it's mostly here just to set up the Stealth Rocks, and nothing more other to go boo. We have Ferocious the Tyranitar, which Brock had during the World Tournament. Tyranitar is holding the Salt Fest, but don't get comfortable because it won't hold it for long. Tyranitar has the Adamant nature, it also has the Sandstream ability, and with the moves Earthquake, Rock Slide, Dragon Dance, and Crunch. We're more of a Dragon Dance sweeper, but most of the time we really don't need it, because our opponent's Pokemon are pretty fast. The rest of the moves are explanatory. Next up, we have Drill Buggy the Rhyperior with the Adamant nature and holding the Leftovers, which will be replaced for one battle, which you guys know what it is. Rhyperior has the Solid Rock ability that weakens super effective moves, and it has the moves Earthquake, Crunch, Metal Burst, and Rock Blast. Earthquake is for stab damage, Crunch for Agatha, Metal Burst will come into clutch later, and Rock Blast for the chance to get more damage on my opponent's Pokemon that have a Focus Sash. We have Chompers the Aerodactyl with the Aerodactylite and the Jolly Nature with the +1 speed. Aerodactyl has the moves Dual Wing Beat, Stone Edge, Crunch, and Defog. Aerodactyl is our Mega Pokemon that is really fast, and it has the Tough Claws ability. Dual Wing Beat gives us tons of damage, and it hits twice. Stone Edge to get huge damage, Crunch for Agatha, and Defog for Stealth Rocks, because of both Onix and the other 2 remaining Pokemon. We have Spinning the Omastar with the Focus Sash and the Modest ability. In regards to the other Water and Rock types, the problem with Kabutops is that it's not very bulky, and in regards to setting up with it, I could do so much better with Omastar. And while I like Relicanth, It's not a very good Pokemon. Omastar has the Shell Armor ability so that it doesn't get critical hitted. Omastar has the moves Hidden Power, Grass, Shell Smash, Ice Beam, and Scald. Hidden Power is used for Lorelei and Mega Blastoise. Shell Smash will come into clutch plenty of times. Ice Beam is for Lance, and Scald is to get a chance of a burn, and it gets stab damage. Lastly, we have the other block Pokemon, Willock, the Golem, with the weakness policy and the adamant nature, because Golem is really slow. We have the sturdy nature so that we could take one hit at full health, and we have the moves Explosion, Thunder Punch, Stone Edge, and Earthquake. Explosion with half defense and 150 attack power, and with the weakness policy that will definitely OHKO our Pokemon, Thunder Punch for Lorelei, and Stone Edge and Earthquake to get stab damage, and with a pretty good attack power. So, this is our block team, and going in, I was expecting this to be pretty difficult. And so, don't be surprised of the amount of L's I ended up taking. But I can tell you guys one thing. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. But if this series does pretty well, then I would like to continue on doing this series. And so, if you guys want to see more, be sure you guys like the video down below. And so, without further ado, it's time for us to rock the world. Because it's time to take on the Elite Four. Lorelei's up, and obviously we are facing her water team. Because we are weak to it, it'll be much more of a challenge to beat. Lorelei going in is what I expected to be the hardest member to beat. And it actually went pretty well. But I did lose on my first attempt. I want to point this out here, but I couldn't use Dragon Dance because of the Assault Vest, and I ended up getting burned a few times with Scald. And that is a really big deal because all of my Pokemon, except for Spinny, are all physical attackers. I also gave Joe Buggy the Paso Berry so that it could take at least one hit. Now, with all that said and done, it's time for my rematch against Lorelei. Take 2 against Lorelei. I did the same thing as before. I switched one to Ferocious and tried to get the Stealth Box out with Big Boomer. AubreyTendo went for the Scarlet on Ferocious, and I gave the Ferocious the weakness policy just to get Giga Drained by the Ludicolo and survived on red. I went for the Rock Slide with Big Boomer and tried to go for the Rock Slide with Ferocious. AubreyTendo went for the Scarlet on Big Boomer and we survived with Sturdy, and it didn't get the burn. And we got a +1 speed with the Sonic Berry. We got some damage off with Big Boomer, and Ludicolo went for the Hydro Pump and took out Ferocious. We sent out Spinny because we're gonna use Explosion with Big Boomer, and we took out both Politoed and Ludicolo. Never seen a day where we take out 2 Pokemon with an Onix. And we set up a Shell Smash with Spinny. We sent out Drill Buggy, and now here comes Swampert and Dracofish. We went for the Hidden Power on the Mega Swampert, and we one-shot it because 4 times effective. Dracofish uses Fishious Wind on Drill Buggy, and we used the Paso Berry to weaken it. And Drill Buggy still got one-shotted even with the Paso Berry. And Rhyperior has pretty high defense. That just goes to show just how good Dracofish's attack is. We go into Weird Rock, and now here comes Primal Kyogre. We used Hidden Power on Primal Kyogre, and it did over half. Dracofish uses Fishious Wind on Spinny, and that obviously took Spinny out. Kyogre went for the Water Spout, and we survived with Sturdy, and got the Weakness Policy boost, and we went for the Earthquake, and we took out both Kyogre and Dracofish. And Lorelei is down to our last Pokemon. Lastly, it's Kingdra, and we still have Chompers. We went for the Earthquake with Weird Rock, and we went for the Dual Wing Bee with Chompers. And for some strange reason, Chompers didn't Mega Evolve, because I ended up turning off the Mega Evolution button, because the option to Mega Evolve Chompers didn't appear, and judging by the amount of damage I ended up doing, if we would have Mega Evolved, we would have taken out the Kingdra. Kingdra went for the Muddy Water, and thankfully, Chompers ended up living it, and now we Mega Evolved Chompers, and we went for the Dual Wing Beat, and we took out Kingdra, and we beat Lorelei on our second attempt. I was pretty nervous against Lorelei, because my whole team outside just one is weak to a water team. but we managed to win on our second try, and now, can we get the same results with Bruno? Maybe better, as we did with Lorelei. We're about to find out. Next up is Bruno, and I just want to point out that I made a few mistakes that ended up costing me the battle. First up, I ended up using Stealth Walks on Infernape when I knew full well that it's going to go for the taunt. And 2, I ended up switching right into Chompers with the Urshifu going for the Wicked Blow, and it was holding the Choice Scarf. And don't forget about the fact that Wicked Blow always gets a critical hit. I should also point this out here, but I forgot to remove the Paso Berry from Joe Buggy and give Joe Buggy back the leftovers. But that really didn't change the outcome of the battle, and so don't worry about that. But now, I'll meet you guys back for the winning battle against Bruno. As for the winning battle against Bruno, which was my third attempt, there was a moment during my second failed attempt that I could have won. But because I learned from my previous loss, I know what to do now on how to beat Bruno. Infernape uses taunt like I expected, and we went for the Earthquake to break Infernape's Focus Sash. And it didn't go for the Stealth Walk, and instead it went for the Close Combat, lived with Sturdy, and with a +1 speed, we used Earthquake to take out the Infernape with an Onyx. Urshifu comes out and takes out Big Boomer because of the Choice Scarf, and now here comes Ferocious. And this is what happened. Bruno switched Urshifu went to Zacian, and I went for the Dragon Dance. And Zacian outspeed Ferocious and took it out. But I ended up calling it this time, and I went for the Earthquake, and it did over half to it. After much thinking, I decided to sack off Ferocious because I don't think I need it anymore for the remainder of this battle. And then I made the stupidest decision this battle. I sent out Chompers, and I went for the Dual Wing Beak because I thought it would take out Zacian. But of course it didn't, and Chompers gets taken out with a Behemoth Blade. And it didn't really matter at the end, but it still was a very stupid move on my part. I sent out Will Rock because it does have Sturdy, and after taking a Behemoth Blade due to Sturdy, we went for the Earthquake and took out the Zacian. As for the Mega Lucario, I decided to sack off Will Rock and send out Joe Buggy just to get hit by Close Combat, and we could take it because we are bulky, and with an Earthquake with our high attack power, we took out the Lucario. Now, here is Bishop, and I let Joe Buggy go down to a knockoff and go into my last Pokemon, Spinny the Omastar. During my second attempt, I went for one Shell Smash, and it didn't outspeed the Choice Scarf Urshifu, and Spinny went down. And so, I went for two Shell Smash, while Bishop went for the Sucker Punch and failed. I went for the Scald, and Bishop went for the Sucker Punch, and we lived with the Focus Sash, and took out Bishop. And now, for the moment of truth, can we outspeed the Urshifu? We outspeed the Urshifu, and with a Scald, we took it out, and we obviously outspeed the Komodo because it was holding the Throat Spray, and we took it out with an Ice Beam. So yeah, Bruno was fine, mostly because we did have two failed attempts. But after learning from the loss that we ended up holding, we managed to clutch a win, and now it's time for Agatha. Next up is Agatha, and I just want to say this, but it was a very close battle. But I ended up taking another L. But I just wanted to point this out, but I ended up making a mistake that ended up costing me the battle. When I first came into this battle, I wasn't really expecting to lose this battle. But like I said, it was a very close battle. The mistake that I ended up doing is that when Agatha sent down Marshadow, I switched right into Chompers, which ended up taking a close combat and barely survived. But Marshadow does have Shadow Sneak, and so because of that, it ended up costing Chompers, which is the Pokemon that I need to take out the Marshadow. But yeah, the battle turned out the way as expected. I tried to get a Dragon Dance off so that I could try to outspeed her Mega Gengar, but alas, at +1 speed, it wasn't enough. Maybe the second time around might be better. Second time around against Agatha, I know what to do. I went for the Earthquake against Zoroark and broke its illusion, and after getting flinched twice, we took out the Zoroark, and now here comes Mimikyu. After some thinking, I went into Big Boomer so that I could pop its disguise, and we took a Play Rough to the face. Mimikyu went for the Swords Dance, and I used Earthquake and popped its disguise. And Mimikyu took Big Boomer out with another Play Rough. I went into Will Walk and went for the Earthquake after taking a Play Rough and taking out Mimikyu with a critical hit Earthquake. Now here comes Poltergeist, and I decided to let Will Walk go down so that I can go into Ferocious and take a Giga Drain without a Shell Smash boost. And with the Weakness Policy boost, we went for the Crunch and took out the Poltergeist. And now here comes Marshadow, and it took out Ferocious with a close combat. I went into Chompers, and after Marshadow went for the Shadow Sneak, I went for the Dual Wing Beat, and it took out Marshadow with a one-shot. Here comes Aegislash, and after some thinking, I decided to save Chompers for the Gengar, and went into Drill Buggy and decided to sack it off, so that I could go into Spinny and go for the Skull. And it survived, and we got the burn. Aegislash is a special attacker. It knocked Spinny down to its Focus Sash, went down to the Life Orb, and after Agatha Mega evolves her Gengar, I let Spinny go down and sent out Chompers to go for a Tough Claws Crunch on the Gengar. And we took it out, and Agatha is down. Agatha actually wasn't really that hard. I probably would have won if I didn't switch into Chompers on the Marshadow, but we got a victory against Agatha after just one failed attempt, and now it's time to move on to Lance. Now for Lancelot, and he has proven to be our toughest opponent in these challenges, and he still lives up to his reputation, because I ended up losing to him 3 times. And on my 4th attempt is where I ended up beating him. The main thing with Lance is that I have to make sure that he doesn't set up the Stealth Rocks because of the fact that 2 of my Pokemon have Sturdy and the Stealth Rocks will break it. Also, Melmetal is showing why it is very bulky and it has pretty good attack power. Also, Dracofish is also a really big problem because of how hard it hits, and it's a pretty good Pokemon, which is why I decided to face this team, is because of the Dracofish. But yeah, my last Pokemon was Chompers, and I can't hit the Pomo Dialga with anything, and that cost me the battle. And now onwards to the winning battle. On my 4th attempt against Lance is where we got the win. Funny enough, I almost got the win against Lance on my 3rd attempt, because I got him down to just his Mega Salamence before losing. And the fact that I got him down to his last Pokemon was a very good sign right there. I went for the Crunch because Aerodactyl is going to live anyways, and it won't miss compared to Rock Slide. I switched into Chompers to predict the Earthquake, and it went for the Earthquake. And Lance did the best move yet. Instead of switching Aerodactyl out into Melmetal, he switched it out into Dracofish. It's perfect because I Mega Evolved Aerodactyl, and I went for the Dual Wing Beat, and it did over half to the Dracofish. I decided to let Spinny go down to the Fishious Wen, just so that I could go into Big Boomer, take a Fishious Wen to the face with our Sturdy ability, and go for the Earthquake, and take out the Dracofish with an Onix. Dragonite is up next, and I decided to let Big Boomer go down to an Extreme Speed, and go right into Ferocious, and because Dragonite is locked into Extreme Speed, because of the Choice Band, Lance switched right into Melmetal, and I got a +1 attack and speed with the Dragonance. I went for the Earthquake, and it did over half to the Melmetal, and I went down to a Double Iron Bosch because of Melmetal's high attack. But it's fine, because Will Walk can go for an Earthquake and take out the Melmetal. Next up is Aerodactyl, and I need to save Will Walk for later, and so I switched right to Chompers, and Lance's Aerodactyl went for the Earthquake. I should also point this out here, but I got rid of Crunch because I don't need it anymore, and I teach Chompers Earthquake. Lance, for some strange reason, switched Aerodactyl out, went into Dragonite, and Stone Edge hits the Dragonite, and it did over half to it. Lance decides to let Dragonite get some chip damage off with an Extreme Speed, and let his Dragonite go down. Now here is Aerodactyl, and I hit the Stone Edge, and took out the Aerodactyl with a pointless critical hit. Now here is Pomo Dialga, and I decided to get some damage off with Earthquake, and it barely did anything before it took out choppers with a flash cannon. Now, here is why EV training with special defense, solid rock ability, and metal burst does to this Primo Dialga. Primo Dialga goes for the flash cannon, and here is the result of his 3-stack combo. Primo Dialga gets obliterated. Lance's Mega Salamence, which is his final Pokemon, takes out Drill Buggy with a double edge. But Drill Buggy lives with 3 HP, and I was like, Drill Buggy, you boss! Drill Buggy went for the Rock Blast, got a critical hit, and we hit 3 times. And it barely lives. Now Salamence took out Drill Buggy, which is fine because we're Rock. We'll save the day. Salamence went for the Earthquake, and we took it without breaking the sturdy, weakness policy boost, and with 1 Thunder Punch, we took out the Salamence. Lance has definitely proven to be our most challenging opponent so far, and he definitely lives up to his reputation. But now, with the victory over Lance under our belt, it's now time for us to take on the champion. Now for Toilet. I ended up losing this battle, but I wasn't really expecting to win the first time around. I was actually trying to figure out what I can do for the second time against them. Funny enough, this was a pretty close battle. But the thing that ended up costing me the battle was the fact that Chompers went down. Because Chompers going down makes all the difference for the rematch. But yeah, it was a very close battle, and it came right down to the Ditto before losing the battle. Now, let's see how the second attempt plays out against Toilet. Round 2 against Toilet, and I know what to do now. Just like before, Crocodile goes for the taunt, and Ferocious goes for the Earthquake to get some damage off on this face. I went to Chompers expecting Crocodile to go for the Stealth Rocks, and I predict that Toilet will switch out Crocodile. And indeed he does. Now here comes Primal Groudon, and I went for the Defog in order to get rid of the Stealth Rocks. I was thinking on how to handle the Primal Groudon, and after a few hours of thinking, but call me crazy, but I'm going to sack off Ferocious. Yes, I'm completely aware that Ferocious is a pseudo-legendary. But hear me out here. I actually don't need Tyranitar for the remainder of the battle, despite it being a pseudo. But I have a plan on how to win against Toilet. I let Ferocious go down so that I could send out Big Boomer, got hit in the face with a Precipice Blade, Sonic Fairy Speed Boost, and set up the Stealth Rocks. I got some damage off with Earthquake and let Big Boomer go down. Onix actually proved to be pretty useful during this challenge, and so Big Boomer deserves some respect. I went into Drill Buggy, and hopefully we will take a Precipice Blades. And we do! We went for the Metal Burst, and we just sent that Primal Groudon to oblivion. Here comes Togekiss for some strange reason. And before you guys say anything, Togekiss's only moves to hit me with are Air Slash and Flamethrower. Togekiss goes for the Air Slash, and of course we got flinched. Togekiss went for the Air Slash again. Thankfully, we didn't get flinched, and we went for the Rock Blast. That's doing a pretty good number. Can we get 3 Rock Blasts? And we got the third Rock Blast, and we took out the Togekiss. And so Drill Buggy just took out 2 of the champion's Pokemon. But now Drill Buggy's time is up, because Crocodile outspeeds it, goes straight for the Wicked Blow, and takes out Drill Buggy. Honestly, that is perfectly fine, because Spinny could come in and go for the Shell Smash. Crocodile goes for the Earthquake, and we survive with 22 HP, goes straight for the Shell Smash, and now let's start the Scalding. Spinny hits Crocodile with a Scald, and it's dead. Out comes Darkrai. The Focus Sash is now broken because of the Stealth Rock. We went for the Scald, and it's dead. Now for the Mega Blastoise. We go for the Hidden Power Grass, and it lives on red, and it takes out Spinny with Aura Spear. Which is perfect, because I don't want Ditto to copy Spinny's stats. I went for the Earthquake with Chompers, and took out the Blastoise. Ditto comes in and transforms into Chompers, and then outspeeds my Chompers and takes it out with a Stone Edge, which is perfect because we still have Will Walk left, and Ditto is locked into Stone Edge because of the Choice Scarf. Ditto goes for the Stone Edge on Will Walk, and it does very little, and we...
Oh, I missed.
Come on, Will Walk, we're in the champion battle right now. You can't stop missing like that. Ditto goes for the Stone Edge and it misses, and we go for the Stone Edge and we...
Oh, I missed.
Also miss. Ditto hits its Stone Edge even though I can't hit mine to save my life. But now we finally hit it, took out the Ditto with a critical hit, and we won our first Gym Leader Challenge against the Elite Four in Radical Red. All in all, this was a pretty good challenge. Sure, I will admit, but I did lose against every single Elite Four member at least once, and there are things that could have been better. But I will say that even though I did lose 8 times against the Elite Four, it actually makes me learn that even though I did lose, it actually did learn something about losing. Because when I challenge them again for the second or third time, I actually know what I'm supposed to do in order to clutch the win. The moral of the story is that even though you do lose a few times, you'll soon understand what you're supposed to do in order to clutch yourself a victory. We ended up clutching ourselves to victory today, but there are still many more challenges to go. And if you guys are looking forward to it, make sure you guys like the video down below and also subscribe to the channel as well, because it doesn't pay you guys anything and it shows your support to the channel. Next up will be Misty, and we are going to be using water Pokemon again. That will be a lot of fun because water Pokemon are one of my favorite types of Pokemon. Until then, I'll see you guys next time for the next episode of our Pokemon Radical Red Elite Four Challenge, which we're going to be diving back into using water Pokemon again. And so, I'll see you guys then.